Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. In today's video, I took a bunch of items from my thrifting stash and we are going to give them a refresh and a makeover. A lot of the pieces are going to have a spring look. I know that y'all going to enjoy today's video, so let's get started on the projects. Somebody had a ton of fun painting this piece. I just could not pass it up. It was only $1.99 at Goodwill. It had this cute little picket fence, and of course I love little totes, but we need a new paint job. So to start off, I just gave it a coat of white spray paint. Just with all the details in this piece, I figured spray painting it was the quickest, simplest, easiest way to go. Now I'm measuring and marking a spot on each side of the little house part because I actually want to make it look like a birdhouse. So using this drill bit, I'm going to put a hole on each side of the tote. On the sides of the tote is where they had those paintings, and it still left a lot of raised texture. So I'm going to be using Fusion paint in the color Paisley. Y'all are going to love this color, but I'm also going to add a little bit of baking soda to my paint. That way I can put my own new texture on there to cover that old texture that we don't want to see. I'm using the 12-inch pointed sash paintbrush. This is great for details and clean cuts. The pointed sashes are definitely my favorite paintbrushes to use. So for the first coat, I'm just getting it on there, getting the lines the way that I want them to look. And then for the second coat, I'm going to stipple it on there and add all that texture that I want. And of course, all of the paint and products that I use in the video, you can find in the description below and on my website, juliesdesignsandsigns.com. I am loving the white and the paisley, but I want to add some wood tones to this piece. I think that's just going to bring it to the next level. So I cut out some little pieces of 5mm underlayment and also some tiny little dowel rods. Now I want them to be a little bit darker, a little bit more antique looking. So I'm just going to add some watered down antiquing wax to my wood pieces. I'm going to put the small dowel rod underneath the hole to make, cute little bird perch. I don't want to drill a hole all the way through. I just found a drill bit the same size as my dowel rod. So I'm going to put a little hole. I'm going to apply some wood glue, and then I'm going to place my dowel rod in. You just want to make sure that you let your wood glue dry completely. The other pieces of wood I'm going to attach to the top of the birdhouse using wood glue and also a little hot glue. That way it stays in place until the wood glue dries. I definitely think adding this wood tone detail was the right choice, and I am absolutely loving the combination of the white, the paisley, and the wood tones. But y'all, let me know what y'all think about this project. Would you have picked up this tote had you seen it at the thrift store? I've been having these terracotta pots in my stash for quite a while. I just really liked the shape and size of them, and they fit these faux plants that I have perfectly. And I've had this look in my head for a while that I want to try, so we're going to do it and see how it comes out. The first step is to add a mold to the pot. I'm going to be using IOD's Olive Crest mold. Is one of my favorites, and I especially love this little label. I already dusted it with some cornstarch. You want to do that so that way your IOD air dry clay does not stick to your mold. So you just put your clay in, you rub off all of the excess, and you turn it over and your mold pops right out. I'm going to make another one, so each terracotta pot will have its own label, and then I'm going to take IOD's letterpress stamp. If you watch my videos, you know this is one of my favorite. I'm just going to take the little number 1 and the number 2. So not only can you use these to stamp, but you can use them to make an impression. So while my clay is still wet, I'm going to push the stamp into the clay. Now, if you wanted to stamp it after it's dry, then you would use ink and use, the stamp the way that you're supposed to use it. But that's the great thing, is that you can use these stamps to stamp stuff and to make an impression. I'm going to use some Gorilla Glue to attach the mold to the terracotta pot. And when you're gluing a mold to a rounded surface, you definitely want to do it while the clay is still wet. That way, as it dries, it will dry to the contour of your piece. Okay, now for something I have been wanting to try for a long time. I'm going to be using spackle. That's what I had on hand, but I think you could also use joint compound. I like this stuff because it's purple and then it turns white when it dries. So I'm just using my fingers and I'm going to rub it on my terracotta pot. I'm also going to make sure to rub it up against my mold and on my mold. That way it seems like everything goes together. I don't think there's really a right or wrong way to do this, and I was really trying not to think about it too much, but I didn't want the texture to be too random and all over the place. So once I had some spackle on there, I just kind of ran my fingers around the terracotta pot. That way all of, the texture would be gone in the same direction. But if you wanted it to be random, it's really no right or wrong way to do this. I am already loving the way that this is looking, but I want to take some 220 grit sandpaper and just lightly sand it just to get rid of any loose spackle or any spots that are a little too high. So just a little light sanding. We do not want to get rid of the texture that we just created. Okay, next step, I want to add another color to this. So we have the terracotta color, we have the spackle and white IOD clay color. Now I want to add Fusion's Chateau. It is a beautiful color. I would say it is almost the color of my drop cloth. And I want to paint the inside of this. I want to get full coverage on the inside of terracotta pot, but on the outside, I just want to dry brush. I don't want complete coverage here. I just want to add that third color in. I ended up not really liking the way the mold looked dry brushed, so I ended up doing full coverage with the Chateau color on the mold and around the mold, and then I came back with a paper towel and distressed some of that white through. It's just a small difference, but I really felt like it was a big change. It just made it seem more like one cohesive piece instead of the mold sitting on top of the pot. And then to seal up this pot, I'm going to be using Fusion's Tough Coat in a matte finish. This sealer is perfect for lighter colors. This came out exactly like I wanted. I just wanted a hint of that terracotta to come through. I wanted it to have this old world look, and I've been thrifting a ton of other terracotta pots to do this too, so I am so excited to do this technique some more. If you've been thinking about it, definitely try it. It was so much fun. I thrifted this galvanized pitcher and it's cute, but it has the fake rust, and I just feel like it's something that you can find at pretty much any store. So we're going to give it a makeover and make it look a little bit more unique. I want to use Fusion's paint in the color Paisley. This is a beautiful bluish color with a little bit of gray. I don't even know how to describe it. I love it. Y'all are going to love it. I know it. If you have not used Fusion paint before, it has the most amazing coverage. So this picture is only going to take one coat of paint, and Fusion also has a built-in sealer. Our next step is going to be to add a transfer to it, and this is a perfect paint to use with IOD transfers because of that built-in sealer. I chose IOD's Ephemeral Melange Transfer. It is 8 pages of florals and seed packs and just vintage ephemera. I absolutely love it. So I decided to use this one because the typography on here I feel like is almost the same color as the paisley that I just painted the picture. So I think it's going to be a perfect match. You want to figure out where you want your transfer to be on your piece, and then you're going to remove the white backer, and then I like to use painter's tape to keep my transfer in place. And all your transfers come with this little clear transfer tool, and you just rub it across and it'll transfer onto your piece. And y'all, like I said, this Fusion paint has a built-in sealer, and I find the transfers transfer so easily every time I paint something with Fusion paint. Now this next step is total personal preference because you do not need to sand your transfers, but I really want this to look like an old worn label. I want to bring back some of that paisley color through the label. So sanding is definitely the way to do this. I just feel like it makes it look like this label, it has always been on the picture instead of something that I just put on here. I really like the way that it came out. I feel like not only does it have spring vibes, but it also has shabby chic vintage vibes. So y'all let me know what y'all think about this galvanized picture. Can y'all believe that I thrifted this little stool from Goodwill for $1.99? I definitely could not pass it up for that price. Of course, I'm going to be giving it a paint job. I'm going to be using Fusion's paint in the color Chateau. Like I told y'all earlier, I find this color is so similar to drop cloth. And the IOD transfer that I'm going to be using on this stool, I've used it before on transfers and on drop cloths, and it looks amazing. So I figured, why not go it would work? So I'm going to be using Chateau. Now, this is a lighter color, so I did end up having to do 2 coats of paint on this little stool. I'm going to be using IOD's Floral Paranesis transfer. This is one that you could use the whole transfer together on a piece, or you can cut it up and just use bits and parts like I do. So I'm going to cut out this floral piece right here, and that still leaves me a lot of this transfer left to use for other projects. We're going to start with the top of the stool. I want these florals to be on the top, and then I want the greenery to kind of come down the legs. But we're going to start with the top, and this transfer is actually a little bit bigger than the top of the stool, but that is actually great because I want the florals to kind of go over on the edge. So you just bend your transfer over and you just use your transfer tool and rub it, and the transfer will come right off. It is very easy to do edges. Now for the legs, what I'm going to do is just take bits and pieces of greenery and leaves and stems that I have left and just place them all around the legs of the stool and go over the edges just like I showed y'all how to do. So you just want to have your transfer flat and rub on that, and then bend it over and then rub the next surface. I hope that I am explaining this well, or at least y'all can kind of see and understand what I'm doing. It is really not that hard, and I think bringing the transfers and the leaves down to the legs of the stool looks so much better. I could have just did it on the top and that would have been easy and fine, but y'all let me know what y'all think if y'all like the transfer coming all the way down the legs. And don't forget, if you mess up, you can always sand your transfer to kind of hide some of those mistakes. Sanding and distressing can fix a lot of things. I don't know how the buyer is going to be using this stool, so I want to go ahead and seal it. I'm going to be using Fusion's Tough Coat in a matte finish and Fusion's applicator sponge. This is my new favorite way to apply a sealer. I am loving this sponge. It gives such a smooth, flat finish. I hope y'all are enjoying the video so far. I just wanted to remind y'all that I do have another YouTube channel called Julie Thrifts. So if you actually want to come along with me on my daily shopping adventures and see when I pick up all these items that I use in my thrift flip videos, y'all go ahead and subscribe to my channel. I will have a link in the description below. I also want to remind y'all that next week is the first Wednesday of the month. So everything that I thrifted for all month will be available on my website, juliesdesignsandsigns.com at 6 p.m. Central Standard Time. So y'all make sure y'all set y'all alarms for that. I thrifted this metal thing a long time ago at the Goodwill bins. I have no clue what it is, but I love the look of it. And then I also thrifted these little tiny terracotta pots, and it just so happens that they fit perfectly into this metal holder. However, I don't think they necessarily match with the metal, so I want to age them a little bit. I'm just going to use some antiquing wax. I'm going to brush it on and just wipe it off, so a little bit of the terracotta pot will be showing through, but it'll mostly be brown. Now, if you don't have antiquing wax, you could also just use watered down brown paint, or you could even use dirt. I'm going to style this piece with some eggs and a little rolled up sheet of music, but y'all leave some comments below and let me know what you would put into these little terracotta pots. I thrifted these pots because 1, I liked them, 2, they were very inexpensive, and 3, they already had foam and moss inside of them. I really liked the texture on this pot, so we're going to give them a little bit of a makeover without too much work. I actually like the leaves in this pot, so I'm just going to pull out the flowers, and then in the other pot there's only 2 stems remaining, so I'm going to pull them out, and unfortunately it did take a good chunk of the foam and the moss with it. Like I said, I want this to be a quick makeover, so I feel like a transfer is the quickest, easiest way. So I'm using the ephemeral melange transfer, and I'm picking out 2 labels that I think would look good not only on my pot, but also with the florals that I'm planning on using. So I'm just putting my transfer on the pot, and I'm using my transfer tool to transfer the image onto my piece. And this was just a very easy, quick way to add a little something extra to these pots. Now it's time to add in some fresh florals. Well, not fresh, but you know, new florals to these pots. So I got these wildflowers. They're called wildflowers from Walmart. This is the first year that I have seen them, and I thought they were really pretty. I believe they were $3.25. So I'm just going to cut them off into separate sprigs. And I also didn't care for the leaves on these sprigs. They were a little bit too bright green. So what I did was I just took them off, and I really like the way that that looked better. So if there's one element that you don't like in a floral, you can absolutely remove it. Now I'm just going to add in the sprigs of greenery in the foam, and as you can see, there is a chunk missing, which is very unfortunate because the reason I purchased this was because it already had the foam and the moss. So I did end up having to hot glue some fresh moss in, but in the end I actually think it looked really great with the fresh moss. So this pot did have a few bald spots in the moss, and I think in the end you probably wouldn't have been able to see it, but before I added in the floral, I just wanted to take care of that. So I just added some antiquing wax to the little places where you could see the white foam, and that kind of camouflaged everything. For this pot, I'm going to be using this floral that I actually got off of a wreath. I bought an entire wreath full of this beautiful floral for $4. So I just removed it, and I've just had it in my stash for the perfect project. And I think it'll look great in this pot. So I'm just going to kind of stick it in the foam and arrange it in a way that I think looks good. So definitely be on the lookout for pots that have foam and moss already in them, but also for florals. Even if you don't like the florals on the piece that you're purchasing, you can always remove it and then reuse it for a different project. Alright guys, that is the end of today's video. I really hope that y'all enjoyed today's thrift flip transformations. Definitely leave me a comment below and let me know what was your favorite project today. And don't forget that all the paint and products and even these projects are available on my website, juliesdesignsandscience.com. Y'all have a great day, and I will see y'all in the next video.